Sorry about what happened yesterday.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have that happen again. If it does happen again, it's going to make me very suspicious that it only seems to happen, excuse me, um, when I'm doing a Zoom or Skype call.
Okay.
It
Wait.
doesn't seem to do it because all my TV is through the internet. If I'm watching YouTube or playing on Facebook or doing whatever, nothing. But now that's the second or the third time it's cut out trying while talking or working with somebody. So fingers crossed.
Well, okay. You don't have to do a video call if you don't want to. We can just do this on voice if you think that would help.
If if this cuts out, let's do that. But we'll go ahead
Okay.
and
Okay.
because
We'll see.
also I
We'll
want
see.
to test this. I want to see does
Okay.
this.
Okay. Um, Real quick, yesterday, we talked about, or you mentioned that you had maybe some unused level layouts for Spinball in your possession that you
Oh yeah,
haven't yet.
actually I meant to send that to you last night and forgot. So yes, I do
What?
have one.
I meant to ask you about that. Is this the image because you showed it to the community a while back? I'm having trouble sending it over Skype. There we go. Oh boy, this is gonna take a while to upload. It says round two, toxic pools.
That sounds like it. I can pull it up here as well, so I can look at. Okay, Sega. No, that was that one. Yes, that was Sega.
Here it is right here.
Uh, oh, okay. Yep, that's it.
Okay, so you've already showed us this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's all I've gotten sent. That's like a copy of a copy of a copy.
That's, I mean, it's good enough for you know what you
What's
can
better than
see in the
nothing?
image.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's better than nothing. Um, but anyway, so
Because I
real.
would have done the interesting thing there is the red lines on that are me marking out the size of a screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some idea what the scale is as I'm drawing. I remember doing the same thing with the Sonic 2 maps of having a little, either drawing on the map or physically having a little cardboard frame I could slide around on the map.
Yeah, that makes a lot
So
of
you,
sense.
so you knew what could be seen at any given moment.
Yeah. Actually, I've always been curious about that. When you were making art for all these old games, were you keeping in mind composite video output or RGB? Because those are totally different color outputs
Yeah,
for.
we were definitely thinking the worst television out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mostly because I never was really aware how different that made the images until went to E3 back before there was CES back before E3
Mm-hmm.
and sat down and played what game was it Herzog's Vi on the Genesis, and I was playing it on whatever on their monitors there, and I was like, why does this look so different? In fact, it doesn't look as good. And I realized, yeah, it's a monitor. You're literally seeing the pixels.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing pixels and colors kind of interpolated by mixing, red, green, blue together. Which so yeah, we depended on that color in order to get the gradations, and so because if you look at a hard monitor image and you see all the dithering. It's
Yeah,
supposed to be a nice transition of color.
but of course you don't get that when all the pixels are laid bare and you have like
Yeah.
a.
And so yeah, so we very much did it for a good old television.
Mhm. Well, anyway,
Yes.
that's pretty interesting. But I wanted to go back to what we talked about yesterday. We were talking about how you developed an appreciation for fandom and how you at first didn't. The last thing you said was that you at first didn't realize why it was important for you to show your work to anybody. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's just not all that long ago, about probably, I don't know, a few months ago, was watching a movie or a documentary on these guys. Um, hunting through Spain, looking for the original filming sites for the Clint Eastwood movie Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're specifically looking for I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. It's one of my favorites.
I know the theme song. That's about it.
Yeah. So the end of the movie is this three-way gunfight in this circular cemetery, and they're standing in this little opening plaza kind of in the middle of it.
Mm.
And so that's what they're looking for. And they find it because it was just a movie set. I always thought it was a real cemetery they filmed in. No, it was completely a movie set. And back then, you finished a movie and you walked away. You just left everything. And so they started digging it up and preparing it and trying, because they wanted to restore it in time for the 50th anniversary of the movie. And okay. But what caught my attention there was James Hetfield, lead singer guitarist for Metallica. Mm-hmm. They've always started their live concerts with Ecstasy for Gold, which is from the soundtrack, and they're big fans of the movie and the score. And so they were interviewing him. They were interviewing all these actors and directors and stuff as they're doing this little documentary, and they get interviewing him, and he gets talking about how, as important as his music was to him, it took him a little while to really realize, when people came up to him and thanked him, what it meant to them. That it was life-changing to some of them. And it took him a moment to kind of realize and process that. He realizes that and reminds himself of that anytime he'd go out to perform. And that something that he said there, it clicked home. It's like, oh, wait, yeah. I just had to shift this to Star Wars. Because I look at the number of times I've freeze-framed images and zoomed in to see where the buttons were on a stormtrooper costume.
Oh, yeah. And now you get it.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's I don't want to sound like maybe I was being a little condescending with that get a life comment.
No, I didn't mean to. I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny because it's so completely true on a certain level.
Oh, no, absolutely. You can say the same thing to me with Legos or with my stormtrooper outfits and stuff. So it was, but I had never made that connection. Mm-hmm. Of how excited I would be to talk to the guys who built models for my favorite movies or some of my favorite musicians, or if I got a chance to meet Adam Savage from Mythbusters, I would flip out. I would love to.
You look like Adam Savage almost. But yeah, Sonic 2 had to have been the most ambitious game of its time, and so to be a fly on the wall when they were making that would just be incredible.
And I wish we could have, I wish at least I did. Maybe other people did. I wish I had a little bit of a comprehension of that. We knew it was a big game. We knew Sonic was big. We knew it was now the mascot of of Sega. It was a huge opportunity, and we're going to make this great game. But yeah, that still doesn't. It did not occur to me that 30 years later it would be as big or bigger.
Right.
It's and I would love to go back and whisper in my ear, take better notes, save this art.
Yeah. Pay
attention. Because I would love to have that to share. Yeah, we knew it was going to be a great game, but it's hard to imagine. And that you're so busy, just trying to get it done.
Just hindsight is everything in this.
Hindsight really is, and it's. I think in movies and a lot of places now they have people that is their job, is archiving. Mm-hmm. Let's save this stuff, but it's not just. It's once again looking back at old movies. Now they realize the props from these movies are worth a lot of money to either save or reuse or sell or whatever. On the opposite, Kubrick did 2001. It was just the opposite. He purposely went out of his way to destroy everything after the movie was done.
Damn.
Because he didn't want people making B movies using his spacesuits and old models and props.
That's kind of like how in Sonic, back then, credits people used pseudonyms, because they didn't want people to get poached for other development
Yeah,
teams. And
yeah.
so, but nowadays it's like, well, you got to give these guys credit. I mean, you know, you need to know who
I'm
did what.
Yeah, and I'm curious how much of that was willing by the big companies to actually allow their employees to put names on there, or if they were forced to it.
I think
Um,
Yamaguchi kept his name, so it might have been for individual team members to
yeah, yeah,
decide.
that was always interesting. I remember later on, it's like, oh, he's still using Judy Toyota. Oh, okay. So, but also that's just that was his name making games
Yeah.
to him, I guess.
Oh, but yeah. So, anyway, the reason I brought that up was just because I know that back then, in 2001, around the same time we were talking to you, we also contacted Brenda Ross,
Hmm.
who was behind Wood Zone and the Desert Level, and she's kind of gone off the grid since then.
Yeah, she left the industry and just really went off and did her own thing. I've stayed a little bit in touch with her. I haven't talked with her in the last year or two.
Hmm.
We occasionally bump into each other on Facebook and whatnot.
And I think part of that was because back then Sonic fans were just kind of harassing her, asking her all these questions, and I think she had to change her email because it had been publicly saved.
Very
Um,
possibly, and it's also hard. 'Cause the best of my knowledge, everything she worked on in Sonic 2 got cut. I don't think she ended up with anything
and
in the.
unlike you, she probably didn't save anything, but I don't know if that's the
Yeah, I
case.
don't know. I know. So I'm trying to think. I think she did say had. See, that's the other thing is I know I saved some stuff like raw pixel art
Mhm.
on a little 3.25 inch floppy disk.
Yeah, I think Tom Payne did something similar. He had a whole treasure trove of floppy disks with different
Actually, I
art
think he
assets
was
on
able
it.
to. I think he actually saved some of his and was able to pull some of that out still, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So when I know, talking about keeping a better journal, I have it written in my handwritten journal at my time at Sega of saying, I'm going to start two journals. I'm going to keep this handwritten one as my personal thoughts and dreams, and I'm going to start keeping a more business type work journal on my computer. And I remember doing that. I remember typing. The problem is, once again, that's on a 3 by 5 disk somewhere in a landfill now, because it probably got upgraded a couple of times to
Yeah.
new hardware, and then just
Yeah.
got lost in a transition somewhere. And so a lot of these questions people have and I have, that information was written down because I knew I wouldn't remember it. I knew I'd want to remember it, and it just
Yeah.
should have printed it out and stuck it someplace.
So now let's get into the real nitty gritty of Sonic 2's development. See if we can't jog your memory a little bit. See if we
Indeed, I
can't
hope
pull
so.
everything from your 30-year hiatus. So back to the Ice Knight interview from 2001. Hang on, let me pull out. Okay, so they asked, "Do you know which were the first stages in development? Can you give us some possible names for them?" And you answered, "I know that Hidden Palace was one of the first pieces of art I did for Sonic 2, which is why it bothers me so much that it got cut. I can remember a variation on the Atlantis theme that got as far as a map and some rough art, but that's all I can remember. Mark Cerny designed that one. What is the Atlantis theme?"
That would have been. I say once again. I say it's what real names for stuff. Even at the time, I was bad at. That was where you had um, the ruin, the Egyptian looking, not Egyptian, Greek looking ruins, and a lot of underwater stuff.
Okay, if I showed you an image, would you be able to recognize it?
I should be able to. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I have some of the we have some of the art that was recently released in the Cook and Becker Sonic 2 artwork book.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and this is an image of Emerald Isle, which is a level that is commonly believed to have ended up in the final game as a zone called Aquatic Ruin. See if it'll upload here. Sorry, it's going to be really slow.
That sounds like it's very likely what I was talking about.
And
see,
here,
I don't even remember Mark designing the levels back then. I kind of half remember that art, but that probably is what I would have referred to as Atlantis. Whether or not it had that name written anywhere, it probably got mentioned somewhere or talked about that way at one point. But
I have a second image that sort of kind of resembles what you were talking about. I want you to tell me if this rings more of a bell. This is from a zone that got cut from the game. These awkward silences as it uploads. Yeah. I really appreciate that you're helping me get down and solving these mysteries.
I just hope if I can help you, if I can remember something that you don't know, that would be awesome. Oh, vague memories, but
Blue Ocean.
yeah, there was, I'd even forgotten about all this huge time travel, changing the worlds as you did things concept.
Yeah,
until somebody mentioned it some time ago, and also then I remember standing in a meeting with I know Yasuhara was there and Naka there, and Mark was probably there, and who else? And I remember looking at this huge map.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Ever.
So it seems like, according to your memory, Emerald Isle, this first image, would have been the quote-unquote Atlantis theme.
That would be a guess on my part, a good guess on my part.
Mm-hmm. But you said it was a variation on the Atlantis theme. So this would have been a variation on this, or something like that?
I don't know. I mean, it just, if I were to guess, it would have been something with more underwater stuff, because Atlantis is ruined cities underwater.
Exactly.
But yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember anything specific.
Yeah. You don't remember like gimmicks, like you remember. You were talking about the desert level, and one of the things you mentioned about the desert level, you said, let me see.
This is one of Brenda's levels.
Yeah, it was a desert level. You mentioned something about a gimmick in the level. Okay, you said Ice Knight asked, Mystic Cave has a lot of dangerous obstacles at the beginning of the first act, but when you manage to pass through them, the rest of the stage has no enemies or any other moving objects. Was that stage going to be so dangerous, or maybe that was some kind of test to see how those objects worked? You never answered that part, but that's irrelevant. Mystic Cave is called Dust Hill in that beta version. Some people suggested that it could be the Desert Zone's original name. Could it be? If it wasn't, do you know when and why did they rename it, as well as the other stages? Do you remember any other zone that was renamed since the game was designed? And you answered, the desert level could have been named Dust Hill. The only thing I can remember about it was that the hook for the level was lots of quicksand. Sonic would slowly sink if he wasn't fast enough or jumped wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember anything additional, and I'm gonna have to say that I don't even remember that. So if you asked me now, I wouldn't have remembered the quicksand. Mm-hmm. So too many years.
Yeah.
Sounds cool though.
Well, there was actually a zone in Sonic 3 called Sandopolis, which has a very similar gimmick to it. So it's of no surprise that they might have reused concepts.
Yeah, once again, like I say, there's a lot of stuff in Sonic 2 that they wanted in Sonic 1, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in Sonic 3 that didn't quite make it into Sonic 2 or ran out of room or time or memory or patience or something. And I honestly have to say, I never finished Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles. Was
Right.
busy doing my games, and also there was, probably some ego or some attitude there. I was a little pissed off that I didn't get to work on them.
What might especially piss you off is that in Ice Cap Zone, they reuse some of the Hidden Palace art in that game. Ice Cap has glowing bridges,
Uh-huh.
just like Hidden Palace, and the interior caves are extremely similar to the ones that you designed. So it was like that.
Yeah.
People believe
It,
that
it, yeah. It wasn't very often um, that we got to put, or at least that I got to put in gameplay kinds of stuff. There was little things here and there, and I'm trying to remember. I know one of them was in the Hidden Palace. Is the bridge as you run across it, and the bridge sags, but also
yeah,
the
it has
emeralds
a
light
little
up.
yeah, it glows. I thought that was really
The,
neat.
the light up was me. I remember asking Yasuhara if he thought we could, if I did the animations, if that'd be good. And I think he goes, yeah, if we have time, that sounds awesome. And so I was excited to have that in.
Yeah.
Also, there was a gameplay element. It was in Oil Ocean. I want to say, God, what was it? Something about the way some of the springs worked. I remember making a suggestion.
There was one there's a platform that springs you up as fire comes up under it.
I don't think so. I can't remember. If I sat down and played it again, I would maybe remember
Well, I
what it
mean,
was.
I was about to
Was
suggest I could play the level for you.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I want to say it was instead of running up and hitting the button springs
Oh,
and
right, I
bouncing
remember
off,
it. That was one.
that you'd go up and you'd push against it.
Yeah, that ended up in the game. You
And
can it's a spring. You push against it, and then you let go, and it
and
springs
it shoots you
Sonic
up.
up.
I
Yeah.
think I think that was one of my small contributions. If someone knows better, then it's not they know better. But I remember that and the glowing balls. As I say, once again, it didn't. One, it was only my second game ever to work on it, to work on it all. But once again, Yasuharu and Yamaguchi were all very nice, and Yasuharu was always open to ideas. Um, but so much of it was done before it got to you, and you had some leeway as long as it fit their map as to what you did. But
Well, I mean, you've said before that when you did Oil Ocean, you made a background that everyone hated. Can you remember anything about what it looked like? I mean, you said
I
before that you
don't.
tried
I
to.
would love to have a copy of that to know what it was and how it was different from what Yamaguchi ended up doing,
Did it
because I
look
really don't remember what it looked like.
did it look similar to what Yamaguchi ended up doing? Because you
I
said
want to
that.
say yes, but I really don't know. That's just I'd love to see it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. That's. I mean, hey, that's what you got to work with.
yeah, yeah, that's
Um. So here's another question that you were asked. Quote, were you asked to make a certain type of stage? If not, can you remember any idea you had for stages that were never made? You said, quote, I can remember working up some ideas for a circus level with big clown heads and a roller coaster. I know that there were other ideas, but that was a long time ago, and a lot of levels have gone through this head in that time.
I actually have a couple of very rough sketches of whatever that clown circus level is.
You do?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're very simple. It's like two little quick sketches in my sketchbook.
Anything would be good
Yeah,
if you
I'd
have it.
say I'm not sure I've put those out because they're just really not very good. There's not much to them. But once again, that's me judging
I mean,
what's
we
interesting.
have like really minuscule sketches that Yamaguchi did. That were like just like Sonic is a stick figure, and
Yeah,
there's like some like little tiny text. I mean, even that stuff we treasure.
yeah.
So
I'll pull it out and send it to you because it's. I remember it's like a sphere, like a planet, and there's a ring going around it, and you're running on the ring, and there's loop de loops and hoops, and that's the track.
was that approved to go in the game, or
No,
was that
I
just
don't
an
think it ever
idea?
got past just here. Here's some ideas.
So this was before everything got lined out. Like, okay, here's the final list of stages.
I would have to think so. I know there's a little sketch of once again, this may have been something that potentially I had an idea for the Hidden Palace crystal based zones, because I have for an elevator, I have a little sketch of a mining cart on a chain, a string of these carts of little scoops carrying stones or emeralds, and you would jump and write that up. And once again, that's one of the few sketches. And that's what surprises me, is that I don't have more sketches like that.
Hmm.
That I didn't rough things out on paper, or if I did, I must have done it on loose paper as opposed to a sketchbook. And so yeah. That's
Don't.
I've got those. That they are. I do have pictures of it. I need to go through and pull them. Right, they're scanned in. I just got to go find them, and I know right where they're at. I just got to pull them and
Yeah.
see if they're cleaned
Don't
up so they're readable.
don't tell yourself, oh, this sucks. They're not going to care about this. You never know.
I know. I really need to change that attitude. I really do, because, like you said, if it was a quick little, nothing more than a stick figure, that
I mean,
once again, if the things I was interested in, I saw this
yeah.
quick little stick figure that so and so, my favorite such and such did. Yeah, I'd want to see it, because that's the foundation of all this stuff. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm working on adjusting that mentality.
Yeah. So anyway, two more questions before we dive into the big stuff that Yasuhara was talking about a few years ago. So in those days, it was really common for Sega to make Sega CD versions of games, like Echo the Dolphin was one
Mm-hmm.
that had a Sega CD version. There were lots of reports from magazines at the time talking about Sega CD versions of both Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, including from Al Nilsson, that just never happened. Do you know anything about that?
No, that would have been out of my pay grade, so to speak. I
Okay.
can remember vaguely conversations and hoping
Mm.
that would happen. But why that would or wouldn't happen is beyond. But I was oblivious to almost all the politics
Oh yeah, yeah. That
behind
that
all
would have been
this.
from the marketing team or whatever.
Yeah. And it's.
So Sonic 2 was going to be a huge game. I mean, it was going to be like 18 levels before you realized that wasn't going to work. Um, that's a huge game.
That's
Like,
huge.
but in Sonic 3, that's 14 levels, and even that's a stretch. So, but that game has a save feature. That game has a save feature. Sonic 2 seems like the original idea would have been too big to not have a password system or a save feature. Do you know if that was ever in the plans, like before?
Not that I can. I don't know. Once again, that's not something that meetings or conversations I would have been included in. Um, I probably would have been in favor of save features. I've always liked save features. I dislike the fact that Kid Chameleon, the first game, did not have a save.
Well, I mean, Sonic 2 is you can beat it in a single sitting pretty easily, but
Yeah, so it wasn't horrible, but I still like the idea of saves.
yeah,
If you're forcing someone to replay the game, is that really a good thing? You
yeah,
know, they should want to replay it.
exactly.
So you give them other incentives
It's
to
nice.
to replay.
It's nice to put the game down and then come back to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so here's the big one. So a few years ago, actually, let me talk about one more question Ice Knight asked you. It's about time travel. Um, now, now we know this was really a thing, but when you were asked if you remembered something about time travel, you said, "quote I do remember something about there being a time travel storyline. I can remember trying to work out the details of what a forest would look like when it was green and healthy, then what it would look like after it had been ravaged by Robotnik. I can remember trying to come up with a good way of doing burning trees." Do you remember anything about that?
No, that falls in that same category. If you'd asked me without quoting back to me what I said, I wouldn't have remembered any of that. I can once again, as you read that, I can remember, and I get these little flashes. And this is once again, there had to have been some sketches. these are sketches I would have done on paper with a pencil, um,
Well,
of ways to do things.
what's
So
interesting is that you talk about how you were working on a forest, but as far as I know, Brenda Ross did the wood level.
this may have been early enough that stuff hadn't been divvied up yet or whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
so, or whether or not the forest level that got attacked was her forest level, who knows? This could have been, yeah, not having a timeline here. This could have been just blue sky and stuff early. Of
Yeah.
course, early on, this was very compressed. That whole process was incredibly tight and
Yeah.
compressed to get done. Um, that's what I didn't really realize till I got look back and checking dates in my journals and that kind of stuff, and realizing how tight this all was. The turnaround and the transition between one game into the next, and the overlap between games was insane.
Yeah.
And so,
But okay. So speaking of time travel, Yasuhara a few years ago at Den of Dragons 2017 did a presentation. I assume you know about this. Maybe you don't. He did a
yeah,
presentation talking about how to make a game fun, and he showed some sketches showing the development of Sonic 2. He showed level maps and a timeline of events in the story, complete with all the levels that were planned. So we're gonna go over them, you and me. And first off, here's an image of the timeline. Here, here is a slightly closer shot of the timeline. This is all we have. And one map. That's the ancient time, and then this is present day. Ruin present. The future. And the past after getting hit by a tsunami. So, here's the general concept that Yasuhara mentioned. And basically the way it would work is that in the present day, Sonic would go. These are all maps for like a level select feature from like in Mario. Sonic would be on the map screen and he'd go from here to there. So present day, Sonic would go from Green Hill to a level called Ocean Wind to Wood Zone to a level called Sand Shower Zone, which is believed to be the desert level's original name, to Metropolis Zone, and then he goes back in time. Eggman jumps back in a time machine, and he goes back to an ancient time. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In the ancient time, the following levels are present. Tropical Plant Zone, Blue Lake Zone, Hilltop Zone, a Rock World Zone, and finally at the very center is Olympus. Now, here's the interesting thing. Yasuhara described the center of that Olympus as being, quote, the shrine. And that Sonic would travel back and forth from different time periods by using the, quote, hidden shrine. And so, based on this, we've deduced two things. One is that Hidden Palace was Hidden Shrine, and that Hidden Palace really was supposed to be a palace, a shrine, but then you made a cave. And the second thing is that Hidden Palace was supposed to be a pivotal point in the story. It was supposed to be a point where Sonic goes back in time. It was supposed to be an important level. It wasn't supposed to be just another level for Sonic to run through. There was like
Right.
going to be something in there that would have been important. Can you remember anything about any of this?
A very vague memory of being excited about the fact that my level was more than just a level.
Oh, okay.
Which I would not have thought until you're talking about this, and it's an emotional memory as opposed to literally remembering things.
So you were excited to work on something that was actually not a throwaway level. It was actually important.
Yeah, something a little more than just a generic level. Um, Once again, this all I'd be curious to know, and maybe you know this is how quickly, because these maps, I'm getting flashbacks of that meeting I talked about, of sitting in the conference room, very small conference room it seems like,
Yeah.
and this was on a table, and everyone's sitting around it, and we're talking, and Yasuhara is explaining this, and it is sounding way super cool and absolutely impossible.
He said after he showed all this, he said, after I started planning, the dev schedule was changed. This idea was too ambitious to make a full game in 8 months, and so the story was completely rewritten, and some levels were trimmed off.
Yeah.
But we
So
know that.
that's
Sorry.
yeah.
Go.
So it's see that trimming probably happened even before I started the work on Hidden Palace that I don't know. And once again, the fact that it ended up. So I'm trying to remember how much direction I was given on what Hidden Palace was supposed to be, because there is no palace
Yeah, it's just
in my Hidden Palace.
it's a cave
It's a cave.
full of crystals, but it's still a
It's a
cave.
crystal and it's a pretty cave, but it's a cave. There is no palace. And
But you
so
didn't.
I'm
But you
trying to
didn't
remember.
know the title of the level at the time, I assume.
I think I did actually. If I did, or if,
Okay.
when would I have known? See, this is where I would love to have had
I think you.
have those sketches, because I'd written names on sketches.
Well, you've told
Um,
someone else in an interview that you said something to the effect of, "If I had known that it was called Hidden Palace, I definitely would have made it more palace-like."
and that's yeah, okay. So that leans towards the fact that I didn't know the name. But once again, it also, if I was going in, if it was supposed to be palace like and it mattered that it was palace like, Yasuhara Yamaguchi or somebody would have steered me in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, my artwork, the artwork on from me was done for Hidden Palace Zone, and I was unaware that it was cut. No one told me. I just pulled up the game one day to play it,
And
and
that's
it
a
wasn't there.
and that's a real shame because in the earliest prototype we have is dated like May 2000, 1992. That and it was Hidden Palace is one of the most complete zones in that prototype. Is that it? I mean, it has rings, it has enemies,
Yeah. Well,
but
and my memory was that I was told there just wasn't room on the cart, which was always a problem. That was one of the huge limiters was memory.
mhm.
Um, and now looking back, once again, reading what little there is in my notes about it, my journals, I was aware of both, that they were unable to finish the programming, and actually, yeah, that I at the time I was unfinished, not enough memory, and that they were unable to finish the programming. Now the memory one's clearly bogus because it's still on the cart.
Uh huh.
And
What
so
all the
where I
art is
got it
gone,
from.
but the some of it is still on the cart, like unused data.
Yeah, but it's, if memory was really the issue, wouldn't you strip it completely off? But
Yeah.
once again, that's way above my, that's I, yeah. So I'm not sure who told me that it was a memory issue, or when they told me, or they told me and I forgot. I remember very clearly playing and going, "What happened to Hidden Palace?"
And what's so tragic is that in the earliest prototype we have, dated May, all the way up to September when it was started to be removed. Absolutely no work got done on it. The level design, everything about it is
Just
complete
stops.
exactly the same, and no work got done on it at all between May and September.
That, I looking back at it, and these other various changes, and looking back on it now, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
because at that point it had been relegated to some kind of quasi bonus level.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the
and if they're
plan.
worried about getting the playable game done, then you would have left that to last.
It seems like they really wanted it to be in the game though, because they kept making new plans for it, and they made the level select icon for it,
Yeah,
and but yeah, so basically it was going to be 2 acts, and then just 1 act, and then it was going to be a secret level, and then gone.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's like, so you think that the time travel aspect of it got dropped before you started working on it? Because there's enemies in the game that are dinosaurs, which is meant to tie into the ancient
Yeah.
times type theming.
Um, I really don't know. There may have been attempts to keep some aspect of that as you progress, as opposed to just cutting it out outright. Once
Mm-hmm.
again, that was yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't know.
um,
And also, one if sometimes you like stuff, and even though it doesn't necessarily fit, it still kind of fits. And if someone had started, like even if I had been doing Palace Zone while there was still some time travel stuff in it, that meant somebody was animating and drawing enemies.
mm-hmm.
And if that work's done, you're going to use it.
Ah, okay, yeah, that makes
So
sense.
you'll find a place to stick it in with as little change as possible.
So if you look closer at the timeline that Hirokazu Yasuhara gave, it's been translated by fans, and here's what it says. So the zone order is quote Green Hill, Ocean, which is Ocean Wind, apparently, Wood, then Sand, which is Sand Shower, and the Metropolis Zone. And then go back to the past, and you have Tropical Sun, not plant, but sun, then Blue Ocean, and then Hilltop. And it doesn't say this, but then it says Hidden Shrine, and based on the internal level order in the game that we've looked at, that's the next zone is Hidden Palace. So that would have been the next thing. And then we go back to the present, and if you look on the map there, you see something called Rock World Zone.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the third one I sent. Yeah, that's it. And then Oil Ocean, uh, which was just called Oil back then. Like the theme was, it was just called the Oil level. And then Dust, which would have been a ruined version of Green Hill, which is interesting because Brenda Ross and you have said that I thought Dust Hill was the name of the desert level. But it's looking more and more like that ended up being Mystic Cave for some reason.
Yeah, it's
So,
there's so much junk. I don't know specifically what happened in Sonic, but if it's just I'm assuming relative kind of chaos when we were doing the first Spyro game is you're just throwing all sorts of stuff at the wall,
oh yeah,
and names get twisted and used and changed and used, but in a completely different area and just pushed and pulled around into this kneading taffy machine and and
yeah.
and, and massaged into something that all works and comes together if you're lucky. Um,
But uh, one of the things we were talking about time travel and how it affected different levels and how you were going to be, oh well, if you have a wood level, what does it look like after it's been ruined by Robotnik?
yeah,
So Oil Ocean there, as you can see, was supposed to be a ruined version of a level called Ocean Wind. So Oil Ocean would have been an ocean level after it had been ravaged by Robotnik, and now it's been turned into a oil
right.
filled sea. Do you know anything about that? Like,
No, because most definitely by that point, the time travel was history.
yeah.
So yeah, bad pun, um, or no pun intended. Uh, because if I remember right, there is no land, there's no rock, there's nothing there but girders and pipes and tanks
Yeah.
and ocean
Yeah.
and oil. Where if I had been building that off of some kind of polluted, archipelago or
You would have
island
you would reuse the same assets, is what you're saying.
would have used something to tie those together. And then also that's just far enough in. So that's I'm trying to think, it was 6 to 8 weeks I think I spent on Hidden Palace Zone, I think. And so by the time I would have started Oil Ocean, it had to have been longer than that because that's anyway. By the time I did Oil Ocean, I think things were probably pretty well locked down in their final form.
Okay.
Well, yes and no, because Brenda's lead level still got cut, and she would have been working on those before and during and after I was working on mine. So, yeah,
So
it would be nice to be. It would be interesting to know all this because looking back into what little memory I have of Yasuharu's original design, that would have been an awesome game.
oh yeah,
They should still make that game. You could do it now.
the fans have made multiple attempts to try and recreate the vision. So yeah, after this, there's the Death Egg, and then Sonic goes back to the past again, and then Hilltop is listed again. I don't know why. And then Blue, and then we go to the future, Casino, Chemical, and then Genocide. Of course, that became Cyber City because they didn't really have a firm grasp of the English language.
Yeah.
And then Neo Death Egg. And then that would have been the last level, supposedly. So yeah, this was a really ambitious game. And it was... There's there's no way. It makes you wonder what Yasuharu was thinking when he must have known that they had so little time to make this.
Yeah, but I can totally appreciate his just getting in that groove.
Yeah.
And having this idea of the time travel, and then it takes on its own life and it does its own thing.
Yeah.
And then there was probably something. Once again, I'm just kind of talking out of my ass here, but probably some hope that if it was such a really cool idea, Sega would go, that is so awesome. Don't worry, but you'll get it next Christmas. Or yeah, here's another $1 million.
Yeah, because there was also a game called Sonic CD, which was being developed at the same time, which also had time travel in it. So that might have been part of it.
That was a tricky thing too, is because you didn't always know what other people were working on, and so you could pitch an idea not knowing that it's the same as because I know one of the ideas I pitched, I don't remember which one it was now, that somebody pointed out, and this wasn't all that long ago, somebody pointed out that they knew another Sega development team was working on something very similar. And so my idea was rejected, and which was fine because I went on and I think I did Astropede. But it's like, okay, well, that may be why it was rejected. They already had something in the works that was similar. So, but unfortunately, that information doesn't get passed around much.
So I asked you before if I were to show you an artwork of Atlantis, and you said, sure, you should be able to recognize it. I have some other artwork here. Can you take a look at them and see if they seem familiar at all?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Here's a level called Secret Jungle, which some people believe ended up as Wood Zone. Again, awkward pause.
I was going to say, I had those were all lined up at the bottom of my screen. Now they disappeared. I clicked something.
They're in the Skype chat.
Skype chat. Oh, there we go.
That's Secret Jungle. And then the next one is Death Egg. And that's that. And then I already showed you blue ocean, so here is tropical sun. Which looks a little similar to Emerald Hill.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to remember now if concept art like this was shown to me for either Oil Ocean or Hidden Palace, because I don't remember it, but that doesn't mean anything.
Unfortunately, this is all the artwork that we have.
Yeah.
The book does not include everything shown. So here's one more.
You know, and I'm trying to sort out in my mind, because like the Death Egg one looks familiar, but I'm trying to sort out, is it from a memory from 30 years ago, or have I seen it online somewhere, or some other conversation someone has pulled this up and I've seen it?
And
because like the Emerald Isle one looks very familiar, but
well, if that's Atlantis, that would explain it.
yeah.
And here's the last one.
See, that Atlantis and Olympus,
yeah,
all gotten blurred, spun together in my mind.
And then Madness Mountain. We have no idea what Madness Mountain is. None. This just came out of left field.
Yeah. Vaguely familiar, but I couldn't tell you from why. But, you know, vaguely familiar from 30 years ago or vaguely familiar from 10 years ago.
And here's the last one, which is Ocean Wind, which supposedly would have been the original level before Oil Ocean destroyed everything.
That one I'm curious to see if it pops any memories. Does he say who generated this original art?
This is Yamaguchi.
This is Yamaguchi. Okay.
And then that's Ocean Wind.
Oh, vague memories of these.
But yeah. Just so much stuff that got cut on the... Oh, there's actually one more. Let's see if I can get it. This is not included in the thread, but
Whoever did the layout for this book, I'd like to smack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll make it a spread across 2 pages. That's a great idea.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Repeatedly across 2 pages.
Oh, it's just... Why would you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so... oh, wait, that's not it. Okay, so this is from an MTV thing. It's really low quality. But there's a screen showing Yasuhara and some original concept art.
Basically.
And we believe that this is the winter level. It's really low quality, so I don't blame you if you can't recognize it. But, okay. Come on, Skype. There we go.
Yeah, it's the same. Those same memories of just. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, all this is just like, I mean, there's so many like unsolved mysteries. It's like piecing together the Titanic almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like, no, the lights were off. No, the emergency lights would have been on. The ship went down in 2
because you have to be careful, because you can say, well, logically this would have happened, but that doesn't mean that's what happened.
Yeah, because a lot of illogical stuff happens.
And so Yeah, I would like to think that companies now are doing more to archive and keep, you know, journals, for lack of a better word, of what's happening, but they probably aren't. That takes time, money, and energy, and they're all worried about just getting the game out the door.
Exactly.
You know, as nice as it'd be to be able to print a book 10 years later, or 20 years later, you got to get the game out the door. It's all moot.
So
So
did nobody say at any point that so based on what you've told me, I need to believe that because Hidden Palace was being a palace was cut very early on, nobody told you at any point, well, that wasn't what we had in mind, but we'll roll with it.
I mean, I have to assume that,
Mm-hmm.
or I have to assume that whatever direction I was given. Oh God, I'm trying to remember. Part of me, I have this very vague. I say that a lot. I have this vague memory of those geometric stone formations and trying to integrate more masonry built buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and then not clearly, but not knowing why. I mean, it's the artwork had to fit the maps, and so the maps. Yeah,
What can you remember about Hidden Palace's map and its layout? I mean, you've said that one of the only things you remember about it is that you don't remember it having a boss room. What does that mean? Does that mean Oil Ocean's map very clearly had a boss room, but Hidden Palace didn't?
yeah, there was no there was no boss for Emerald. I mean for Hidden Palace.
You're sure about
Uh,
that?
yeah, it's as sure as I can be that I didn't build. Well, yeah, because they had you had to build a little boss room. They were small and very simple, but it was a flat open area generally, um, beyond the other side of the flag or the other side of whatever. And I don't remember ever fighting a boss for Hidden Palace.
Wait, you played Hidden Palace?
Oh, when I was working on it, yeah.
Wait,
You know,
what?
but
Whoa,
it was
hold, hold on.
playable but not finished.
It was
But
playable, but it wasn't.
playable.
When would you say you played it? Like what month in 1992?
I couldn't tell you. I know that's how I discovered it wasn't there. As I sat down one day just for fun to pull it up and run through it.
So you're saying that even though it wasn't in the prototypes that we have, it was definitely in the game and it was playable. Um,
Um, I would probably have been using cheat codes to get to it, or a menu, just click down to it as opposed to playing through to where it was. So I can't say if it had been properly integrated into the flow of the game.
so if it didn't have a boss, what? How did it end? Did it just have a signpost and that was it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
We have a map of Metropolis Act 3 that Tom Payne drew. Um, I want you to tell me if this will jog your memory. If you can tell me like what you remember about Hidden Palace's map. Was it uh, compared to Oil Ocean? Was it short, long, linear, complex?
I really don't remember. I know recently here, not a long ago, um, somebody sent me a. Yeah, unfortunately, somebody sent me a composite screenshot of the entire um, Hidden Palace zone, and it was not the shape I remembered at all.
Wait, what do you mean?
Which isn't saying their screenshot was wrong. I'm saying the way I remembered the map is wrong. Was not correct, because I in my mind they're more linear. They're more like the map I'm looking at right here from Metropolis.
Well, this is
Uh,
this is pretty non-linear. I mean, it goes in all sorts of
well,
different directions.
let me say linear in the sense that it's a long piece of paper, as opposed to
Okay.
it's a long rectangular piece of paper versus a more square or vertical
So
form.
so you
Map.
say Oil Ocean was less like this and uh, more square and more
No,
open ended.
it's not. From my memory, from the way I remember it, and I think this is because it gets overwritten from having played it. When you're playing it, it feels very linear. Because you're always moving to the right.
You're
You know,
right.
it's a scrolling screen. So it's this sensation that's this long line of screens. When in fact, if you were to pull back, and that was this image that somebody sent me that they'd pieced together of Hidden Palace Zone. It's this, not that. It's all, there's a lot of vertical movement and transitional areas, and so I'm
Well,
just trying to remember.
well, there was a finished version made for the mobile release of Sonic 2. I assume you've seen that.
Yes,
Was that close to what you remember, or
sitting and watching it, it feels like it is, but once again, they could have changed it dramatically because it's been so long since I've seen it.
how about this? So I have the ROM of the prototype right here. If I play it, will that jog your memory? It says I can stream it for you.
It can't hurt.
Okay. We'll try that. We'll try that.
Yeah, yeah.
So first I need to
There's
load
also,
up.
I know there were two different backgrounds I did for Hidden Palace Zone, and I can't even remember which one ended up in was the last one I did.
Well, there was that mock-up screenshot which didn't end up in the version that we have.
Yeah, there's one that's like rows of jaggy rocks going off into the distance.
Yeah, there's like a couple waterfalls. Here it is, right here. Very low res, but this is from a magazine, so looks something like this. This mock-up that was the original background or something like that.
There was one because there was one that it looked like a series of caves going on behind it, and waterfalls, and then there was another one that ended up just as jaggedy rocks that was much simpler. I think that, and I can't remember which one ended up being in the playable version.
So let me just see what I can do here. Sorry, this has been a
Oh,
while.
no.
Share screen, maybe? Maybe? Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very small, but let me see if I can make it bigger.
Let me get the cheat codes right quick while you do that. Because obviously I gotta get the level select. Alright. So hold A and press start and then debug mode. Alright. CC up, down, up. And boom. Okay. And here's the level select. I have sound disabled.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe.
Well, see, when I was playing, I would very likely go to this very screen.
Yeah.
And scroll down and click on my level to play it, and it wasn't there. This is here. Yeah, I can't remember.
Okay.
I remember I went to play it and I couldn't access it the way I normally would.
So here's Hidden Palace. And
okay, so that's the other background that unfortunately the one in that screenshot I wasn't able to make work.
So I think this is much prettier, honestly. Actually, there's another zone in the level called there's another zone in the game called Mystic Cave. Do you think that might have been another reason why it was cut? Was because it was too redundant next to Mystic Cave because there were two cave levels?
This is going to be you're going to access Hidden Palace Zone through Mystic Caves.
Really?
Yeah. I don't remember how you did it, but you were getting that. So it really was a hidden level.
Well, that's how the mobile release did it. Is because there's a pit in Mystic Cave. You fall down it and then you access it. Well,
Now, maybe I'm getting those two confused, but
I think you might be getting it confused because Naka has said that it was supposed to be a level that you went through when you got all the Chaos Emeralds, and then you would have gone to because I think in the mobile release that's how you get there is because you fall through it in Mystic Cave. So here's the tube, and then that was it. So tell me if there's any kind of like layout differences. Like we're going through here. It seems
I really wouldn't be able to remember
anything about this bridge right here, because below it is a water section. The thing about this level is that it seems very linear at first. I mean, it doesn't seem to really deviate from a path all that much, because you go up here. The glowing bridge. Yeah, so no alternate paths so far. And then you got this, which is the only path. And again, this did not get worked on between May and September. So this is all we have. And then up here we have an elevator that does not exist. And then if we go to the left... Oh my god, it's the Master Emerald! And it doesn't work. So let's move up the elevator here. This elevator apparently would take you up. It would have looped vertically. Of course, there's no loop right here. So if we go down here, it loops from the water. We have no idea how that was supposed to work. And then a water slide that doesn't work. And that's where the level ends. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't remember anything.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. But, I mean, it was worth a shot. And it's kind of cool to be playing Hidden Palace with the guy who designed it. What do you remember about this water slide?
The gold, the gold crystalline rock is still some of my favorite repeating wallpaper type texture, because it doesn't jump out as repeating unless you get a huge screen of it.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that. But yeah, that's really interesting to know that Hidden Palace didn't have a boss.
Yeah, I mean it's at least I don't remember ever having an empty room at the end, and I definitely know that when I played I've never actually played it, but watched the new version of it, that's like I definitely did not ever draw a pipe organ.
Yeah, that was a little weird. The new version has loops. Did the level have loops?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think those undulating waves were the only loops I remember doing. Yeah, I don't. I don't remember doing any loops. But yeah.
So, one more thing about Hidden Palace. Now, you've been asked this before, I'm sure, over the years. Can you remember what music was supposed to be? Not what was in the game, but what was supposed to be for Hidden Palace? We have access. No,
I don't remember at all what would have been playing when I was back working on it, or back when I would pull it up and play it just for fun. I don't remember the music.
Well, I was about to ask, we have access to Masato Nakamura's original demo tapes. So I was about to ask, if I played you a music track, would you be able to recognize it? I'm guessing the answer is no.
No, I mean, actually just the other night I had some music here playing. It's like, why is that music so familiar? It sounds like something from Sonic. And I went and pulled it up, and it was the Sonic Boom CD.
Yeah, that was a Sonic Spinball soundtrack.
Yeah, so there was a Hidden Palace. I think there was some other miscellaneous stuff on there.
There
And
was it had the Sonic CD soundtrack that by Howard Drawson, who did the
yeah,
American version, and then it had Sonic Spinball stuff. Um,
so yeah, so but that had a Hidden Palace theme on it apparently, and because that's what was playing. It's like, wow, that sounds familiar. That doesn't mean anything. It just means I liked it.
okay.
and it's and it reminded me of Sonic. Yeah, unfortunately, even if you were to put them side by side and say which one of these was the first, I wouldn't be able to tell you
Okay. That's
because
fine.
I do not have it. Yeah, it's my girlfriend's amazing because she does sing and she is a musician and she can literally be listening to one song and hum a different one to you, which is makes my brain explode because I literally can't remember a tune a moment later, much less a different one while a different song's playing.
So, um, so you've talked about Sonic 2 Mobile and how you thought it was really cool to have Hidden Palace finally playable to
Yeah.
everybody. Um, have you seen Hidden Palace show up in the Archie Sonic comics?
Somebody sent me some images of, hey, yeah, here's some more Hidden Palace for you. So that's the other thing that where it makes it. I'll say it makes this all seem real to me. This is coming back to that whole um, trying to truly understand the excitement people have for this, and even more specifically for my participation in this is was okay. As I say, I think I mentioned that my first granddaughter was born. First grandchild was born, a couple weeks ago, so I went up to see him. And before I went up, it's like, well, let me see if I can find some cute little clothes, maybe with something Spyro on it. And so I got looking at all these Etsy sites and stuff, and and I knew there'd be some Spyro stuff, but what caught me off guard is there's these little stuff based on Spyro the Dragon, but just little one-off things of just individual little objects from the game done up in a cute way on a little baby onesie and T-shirts and adult T-shirts and hats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was very specifically a piece of art that I did. And as opposed to just Sonic in general, it was like, what? That's my little crystal structure. And it was this realization. Yeah, it was very surreal to see it that personalized. I've been seeing fan Sonic art or fan Sonic and fan Spyro and fan video game art forever. But
Yeah.
there was something in that, and in the small kind of background stuff that somebody had taken time to do their interpretation of and do something fun with that kind of brought it home.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
That's
so
it's
you'll seeing that even though Hidden Palace didn't make it in, there's fans doing stuff, or even Sega in general. They bring it in and pull it back in, or Yasuhara or whoever, using it later on. That's awesome.
What about Oil Ocean in Sonic Mania, which got reimagined for that game? Have you seen that?
I have not. So I never played it. I'm
Mm.
trying to think if somebody sent me some screenshots.
Well, here's a full video if you want to check this out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I know somebody was talking, was pointing that to me. Because as I say, I don't know if I said this to you, but oh yeah, that's the same Hidden Palace image that somebody else sent me with the Hidden Palace stuff in the background, which is just I see that and that's just really cool.
Yeah.
I just something about that makes it seem real. Um, uh, but no, it's as I say, it's when I dropped out of the industry, stepped away from the industry back in 2005, just burned out. Um, I just really got doing other things and really haven't played and haven't kept up on stuff. And unfortunately, the newest system I have is a PS2, and it's still in a box. And just bought a new television and realized that even if I wanted to hook it up, I wouldn't be able to hook it up.
Wow.
Oh no, or does it have an HMTL cable? I don't think it does. Do they? Do PS2s?
What? I honestly don't.
HDMI, whatever.
They as HDMI was not for PS2. No, it had
Yeah.
component
So even if
cables.
I wanted to hook it up now, I couldn't because I'd have to get an adapter or conversion box or whatever.
Your TV should still have plugs available for composite or component.
Nope, it doesn't. I assumed it would.
That's weird.
Maybe
Oh,
it's under a hidden panel somewhere. I got to go look because I looked
hidden
at that
panel zone.
around. And there's 4 HTML plugs in the back, and that's it. I'm like, crap. Okay.
So
Well,
yeah,
okay. Maybe they're in a little hidden panel.
hidden panel zone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's about it. That's all I had to ask about Hidden Palace. So here's a couple of miscellaneous questions. Um, so I understand you were not involved with Sonic 3 at all,
No.
but I understand that Michael Jackson did visit STI.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Tell me about what you know about Michael Jackson visiting STI. Now, obviously, I don't think you would have known about him composing music for Sonic 3.
Not directly. Indirectly, we knew that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we did. Yeah, we'd heard that Michael Jackson, Sega and Michael Jackson worked together for the music for 3, and so everyone was excited about that.
Yeah.
And then we got word that he was going to be at Sega of America headquarters, signing some papers or reviewing something, and that he wanted to meet the Sonic team. And so I was, so those of us that wanted to, or were inclined to, we stayed late, and I got busy working on something, and I suddenly realized, like, where did everybody go? And so I got up and walked over to the conference room, and they were already in there. So I went in and sat down, and it was Michael Jackson and 2 other guys. I'm guessing one guy was a bodyguard, and one guy was a manager or something there to help with all the paperwork stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on crutches. Never took his sunglasses because he twisted his ankle on a rehearsal for something. And never took his sunglasses off. Never took his hat off. Very, very soft-spoken. Very friendly. Very complimentary to everybody and to the team, and how much he enjoyed Sonic and
Did he say specifically what he liked about the game, or was it just the speed?
not that I remember. I don't remember anything specific like that. I remember the realizations. I'm sitting like
Oh my God, that's Michael Jackson
4
right
feet
there.
away from him, realizing there were literally people in the world that would kill me, literally, to be sitting where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of at the high point of his celebrity fame, unreal craziness. Unfortunately, a few months after that, or very shortly after that, when this was just after he'd done the interview with Oprah Winfrey,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but yeah, shortly after that, then the child abuse, all that,
Yeah, all that bullshit.
all that stuff, and so Sega had to distance themselves. I know that Yasuhara and Naka got to go have lunch with him at his ranch, and I remember Yasuhara being very impressed with somebody had a pet giraffe. He had a pet giraffe. So, and I was jealous that they got to go on that, and I didn't get to go. And then we gave him one of our Sega jackets. It actually was our office manager. We're like, oh wait, crap, we got to give him something. And so our office manager was about the same size he was. And so we pulled off the Letterman Sega jacket and gave it to him. And there's actually pictures of him wearing that, which means the one I got is now worth, more than it would be normally.
Yeah, well, there's actually a shot of MJ playing Sonic 2, and there's the guy in a Sonic costume next to him, and he's wearing the jacket.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I've just seen kind of random pictures of him out wearing it course, there was static still picture, so he may have been that may be what he was doing in the picture.
Oh no, no, no! I guess he wasn't. I guess he wasn't wearing the jacket. I remember him wearing a Sega jacket. Oh, here it is.
I know. When I was just curious what it would be worth because I got looking. I was like, well, what is all this stuff I've got worth if I actually wanted to, if I got, wanted to sell it. Yep, that's it. And so I got online. It looks like, oh, $2,000. Okay, that's pretty good. But then I gave, actually, it was Brenda Ross's jacket.
Really?
My nephew was a huge video game fan, and when he was like 10, and I bought Brenda Ross's jacket from her and gave it to my nephew. And when I found out what mine was worth, I called him. I go, hey, just so you know, because I knew he wasn't wearing it because he's huge now. He was 10 at the time. That jacket's probably worth $2,000. And he goes, do you know where it's at? He's like, yeah, I think it's in the costume box at my mom's house. Go get it out of the costume box.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
no,
no, it was a little surreal meeting him. Just sit there and kind of talk to him and realize just how probably the most famous individual on the planet at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's unfortunate that it all went. His life went sideways and everything went sideways because that could have been a lot of fun having that, working with him and how that could have really done some fun stuff with Sega and
have you seen some of the controversial stuff about his music actually did make it into Sonic 3?
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of yeah. And it's once again I don't know enough about music to know who was right and who was wrong, but yeah, no, I've definitely been watching, well, this is similar and this is identical, and yeah.
So speaking of music, you shared a story about Sonic Spinball's music. Something about how the title theme was using was copyrighted, and you were like, "Oh shit!"
It really was an oh shit moment. I was in the conference room that was between STI's offices, and it shared a door. It was across the hall from STI's office, but it shared a door with Sega 3's, Sonic 3's team, and I was in there playing, Spinball, and Yasuhara walks by and just casually says, "Oh wow, you guys got the rights to that?" And I'm like, what?
Well, of course we have the rights. We're working with Sonic. That's the Sonic thing.
I was like, what do you mean got the rights to it? It's Sonic. He's like, oh no, we couldn't use it on Sonic 3.
And that's when you realized.
Yeah, I was like, Roger.
Was Yasuhara angry about that, or?
Oh no, he wasn't angry. Because we didn't have the right for it. I mean, it was just. I mean, he would have been, I think, upset if he found out that we'd gotten rights and they didn't. But no, that was then Howard Drazen scrambling, because that must have been like the night before Gold release or something like that. I mean, literally last minute.
Well, it had to have been last minute because some copies of Sonic Spinball still shipped with the original theme.
Still shipped with it. Yeah. So Howard Drazen just literally spent all night throwing a theme together.
And it was good.
Oh no, it's really good. It totally fits. And so, but yeah, that was just dumb luck. And apparently, it was that the group that did the original Sonic music became, partially because they did Sonic, became kind of nameless.
Dreams come true, yeah.
And therefore, and the way the copyrights in Japan work, they owned the copyrights to the music, and
well. Yeah, something like Nakamura had some kind of deal where he owned the original rights, and he now gets royalties every time Sega decides to remix it in other games. So yeah, it's something like that. I don't know the specifics.
Yeah, it's but yeah, it was yeah. So it was a close one. It actually could have been bad. Um, if it had fully shipped, um, and yeah, a judge had, and he'd sued, and the judge had gone in his favor of, but yeah,
So
interesting moment.
so when working on Sonic Spinball, um, obviously Sonic 2 has a very Japanese look and feel to it, but Spinball apparently, judging by everything we see in the game, was tied to the cartoon that was airing at the time. Was there a push to make Sonic much more American and much more like the cartoon, with like the Sat AM, I believe it's called, Sonic the Hedgehog from Deke, with different characters like.
I don't remember much of a conversation about making it more like the cartoon. Um, I remember there being a few tweaks on Sonic, but I don't remember the specifics.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I know a bunch of somewhere I wrote down the breakdown of time on everything, and the other projects I was working on. Actually, I was working on this Treasure Tales game.
Right.
It's going to be me. It was me. I was the only artist. Um, one designer, maybe two programmers. There was just four of us on it. We worked on it for 3.5 or 4 months, from the middle of December until early April. And so somewhere, and actually I've talked to the lead program, because I finally tracked down who was on it, and I've sent some questions out seeing if anybody knows anything. And the one programmer says he actually may have the code still on a hard drive somewhere. So I'm telling him to get off his butt and find it. But at that point, because there was that game, because I was doing Treasure Tales along with 3 other people. Steve Woida and I think Jason Plum were doing Spinny and Spike. And then there was like 5, including Sonic 3. There was like 5 games going on simultaneously at STI. And they finally realized that we don't have the infrastructure or the people to do that. And so basically everything got canned and everyone got put on to Spinball, which I'd have been a little upset about, but it was still a Sonic title and it sounded like fun, and
Have you played Sonic? Maybe not played, but there's a game called Sonic Pinball Party for the Game Boy Advance, which is a little like Spinball.
No, I have not.
Okay. Though, a few closing questions. If you had the chance to work on Sonic again without any language barriers or higher up interference, would you?
If I had the chance to work with Yasuhara again, absolutely. There's very few things that would bring me back to the industry. It's stressful, and I've got some serious anxiety issues. But with the right people, and a chance to work with him again, I would totally jump at that. I would work through whatever problems I've got, because he's a genius. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, you described how when you were working with Insomniac, you thought of them as family, and so it sounds like you regard Yasuhara in kind of the same context.
I would. I mean, at the time I didn't, but looking back at it, I could see myself very easily feeling that way. Now, that's not something I would ever allow happen again, because that burned me at Insomniac. But there's a benefit to that too. You just got to. Life is about balance. And so Yasuhara. Say if Yasuhara wanted to work with something, I'd come back for Yasuhara. If Mark Cerny, if I had a chance to work with Mark Cerny again, I would jump at that. And I'm trying to think of anybody else. Those may be the only 2 I would really jump at an opportunity to work with, because they're just. Mark's difficult to work with, but I loved working with him.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Mark Cerny, I think you loved or you hated, and I consider myself very fortunate that I loved working with him. And so, yeah, I'd never really thought of that before, but yeah, Yassar would be one of the people I would actually be willing to risk my emotional sanity.
So I apologize if this is bringing back old bad memories.
Oh no, no, don't worry about it.
Uh, so Ratchet Deadlocked is listed as the last game you worked on.
Yes.
But you've also said that you started work on Resistance Fall of Man before you left.
Just barely. Was just barely. That was the yeah. So we finished up Deadlocked. Actually, I never even got my copy of that game. Anyway.
Wow.
And I learned. So I was art director at the time, and art director slash lead artist both. And so completely retooling of hardware software to switch from PS2 to PS3. So I learned everything that the environmental art staff would need to know. Learned all that. Turned around, taught my team how to do it. Went back to do it myself, and my brain just melted. Physically incapable of doing anything. Just complete mind block. Even in just the most basic functions, and that had been building, for probably the year and a half prior to that, of just stress and anxiety, and something snapped. And so so I never actually worked on Resistance, but I trained up the art staff that did work on Resistance. So,
wow. That's a.
So took a break. Well, Insomniac politely asked me to resign.
Now, why would they do that?
It's complicated. I know what I think. I'd be interested to know what they thought. I'd been getting crap for the last year and a half or so prior to that, the last 2 years prior to that, of being told that I was being paid more than my job description called for. My response to that kind of was like, well, you gave me the pay raises. And just catching a lot of crap. I really felt that right around the middle of Ratchet and Clank 2 that they really would have rather had me not be there. Yeah, instead of, because during Spyro, I would be working late and being stressed because I was behind schedule, and Ted would come tapping me on the shoulder. And I've told this story before. And I'd be like, oh, crap, I'm in trouble now. And he'd pull me aside and say, yeah, Craig, we couldn't do this without you. Here's a 10% raise. Oh.
Wow.
And that happened at least twice, if not 3 times. And then one day, this was during the first Ratchet game. Tapped me on the shoulder. Can I see you in my office? I went in. I wasn't even worried this time. And he says, yeah, if you're late this game, this level, we're going to have to fire you.
Damn.
And I didn't even register because it was so asinine and so out of the blue. And so I said, okay, well, I'll put some extra work in. And went to lunch.
And you didn't know it at the time, but that's when you realized that this was...
Yeah, because I went to lunch. I went, what did he just say? And had to go back to his office and go, did you just threaten to fire me?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah. I said, I'm surprised you didn't respond. Like, well, because, yeah. And so I should have quit. I should have finished Ratchet 2 and left. Because that was, I'd been having the vibes. Because prior to that, Ted really was going out of his way to keep me happy. And I probably took advantage of that to take claim to my faults. But still, at some point, something shifted.
That sucks.
And so it just slowly drove me insane. If I had left and gone someplace else, I'd probably be fine. But I stayed. Because I considered it family. I'd been there. I was their first employee.
# why I stayed.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Spyro Reignited trilogy?
Oh, that. I heard rumors of that, and that was said, well, good. I'd love to see that. And all of a sudden somebody sends me, a couple years past, somebody sends me the trailer. And I was a little pissed.
Really?
Um, just because I found out from a friend outside the industry. And I'm like, okay, now if someone wants to remaster Ratchet or Sonic or any of the other games I worked on, that's fine. I was there. I was an artist. If I hadn't been there, somebody else would have done that art. If I hadn't been at STI, somebody else would have done the artwork for
Right.
Sonic or Kid Chameleon or Ratchet and Clank. Or
Right.
had I not been at Insomniac, there would be no Spyro the Dragon. It would be there would be no little dragon game. It would be something completely different. Probably an off-road racing game or an alien invasion game, or I can't remember what the other game that got pitched the same time I pitched my dragon game. So I was a little upset that somebody hadn't contacted me. My ego was calmed after the game finally shipped, and Toys for Bob sent me a really nice little wall painting plaque thing that said with the Spyro flying. It says "Thanks for freeing me." And it says,
"Oh, that's nice. That's cute."
And that's all it took. It's like, okay, I'm happy. I just wanted some acknowledgement.
Do you think the game was done justice visually?
I think they did a beautiful job. They stayed. I've only played it a little tiny bit and watched people play it quite a bit. It's beautiful. I think they did a good job staying true to the feel and look. My only two complaints are it's a little busy, just because you can fill the worlds full of pots and plants and stuff doesn't mean you should.
Okay.
And their Spyro I love. He is gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree. Except for the color scheme. I don't like the color scheme.
Pink. He's a little too pink for me. His look and his shape is beautiful. He's a little fuchsia. And actually, when I first saw the trailers, I actually wrote Toys for Bob and sent them. I go, you probably have these, but just in case, here's the actual original textures of Spyro.
Okay.
See, this purple it's a different purple.
And they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah,
there were ones where I get on the various YouTube stuff and make that comment about his color, and people, that's your opinion. I go, yes, it is my opinion. However,
I have a very informed opinion. I'll have you know.
Since I'm the one that painted the textures for Spyro, I think I have a little bit of say on my opinion here. So,
as a fan, I really liked how Spyro had a very surreal, dreamlike quality to its levels, its backgrounds especially. Like the color scheme was very. It didn't come off like your typical fantasy cartoon game. It was like it was dreamlike is the best way I can describe it, because everything.
That's actually a good description.
Very, very.
There's a softness
weird
about it.
Yeah, there's a softness about it. Some things look a little blurry, like you can't make them out, but that adds to, like, it makes it feel mysterious and weird in a good way. But the thing with Reignited is that a lot of levels end up looking the same. And a lot of levels had very unique color schemes to them, which are just lost.
There were one of the other levels where it was close, except for they changed the color of the roofs, like the Magic Crafter levels or somewhere. It's like, why did you change that color? There's no reason to, and it looks wrong now.
Yeah.
I think there's a crispness in the new game that is, I think, inherent in the new hardware. I think the softness you're talking about is partially the
PlayStation.
The PlayStation, but it's how we painted the textures. And I will put that on. What was her name? It was a young woman, artist, environment artist. She was English. Not Jackie. I cannot remember her name. She had a very painterly style in her textures.
Okay.
And so just loose and just squiggly and just kind of bumpy, noisy, but it looks like they'd been painted with a brush. And as soon as you saw those on screen and saw Spyro running around with them, you're like, that is Spyro. So I was always taking textures of hers and painting on top of them and using pieces of hers so that I could learn that painterly style, because that's not the style I had typically been painting in. And so that softness was partially the PlayStation and the way the distance engine worked to fade out textures and polygons in distance and stuff. But it was also up close, was that painterly quality of her textures set the tone. And we also had we were very careful about our palettes, and making the palettes for the world. So at a glance, you knew.
Yeah.
At least with the first file, that got harder and harder as things got crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a game where that's another fun one. If I go back and watch other people talking about it in retrospect, they're talking about what it was at the time, and they point out things that I'm sure Mark Cerny and Ted and Al and the other guys that they were writing code and doing that stuff were very aware of, but how much groundbreaking tech was in that game and first time kind of stuff for the PlayStation. So. Yeah, it was. We knew we had something there the first time we had Spyro up and running around. He was literally on nothing but a flat plane of green. There may have been one little boxy structure, but I think it was just flat green plane, and it was just running around chasing your tail. And you could run around and chase your tail for 20 minutes. And, so it was like, wow, we've got something here. There's zero gameplay, and this is fun. And so,
yeah, that's kind of how Mario 64 was. It's that it was just running around just needs to be fun.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember the first time Grand Theft Auto 3. I remember, at the time there was all this talk about, there's Congress and they were going to make laws about violence in video games and all sorts of stuff. And I remember hearing about that game and how you could pick up hookers, and it's like, oh, we don't need this.
Uh-huh.
And then I played it. I was at a party and sat down and played it. And it's like, wow, this is really fun. And so I stopped on the way home and bought a copy. And that weekend, at the time, my son was in San Jose. He was, I think, 10 at the time, or 8, 10. And I was in LA, and I would fly back and forth each weekend to spend the weekend with my son. And he's the one that just had the baby. Anyway. So it was a big decision. It's like, well, do I take up this extremely violent game to play with my 10-year-old? And I went, yeah, let's do it. We played it for 14 hours that weekend, never played the game.
Wow.
We did nothing but run around and explore the city. It's like, oh, there's a fire truck. Do you think we can steal the fire truck? And we'd steal the fire truck. And so,
that's really
yeah, that would have been a fun game even if there hadn't been a game. So there's not many games that you can do that with.
So, I have a quick. I didn't plan on asking this, but now it comes to my mind. This is just a personal question from me.
Uh-huh.
About Spyro 2. So in the game, there's all these worlds, right? There's summer forest, autumn plains, and winter tundra. Those are the levels in the game. And they all have different levels in them. Those are the hub worlds, and they all have individual levels in them.
Yes.
Was there ever a spring world? Like, it seems like, did that ever get left on the cutting room floor?
It seems very odd to me even looking back at it. It's like, well, why do we have 3 of the 4?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure at what point something got clipped there and things got shifted around. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. But that's also a question that even I'm asking myself every time I see it. Because I'll go to even now, we'll go up and pull stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, here's 3. There should be 4. There's 4 seasons. Why is there not a 4th? And so I'm not sure what the reason was for at the time. That was one where the hub worlds there are mine. Those were my. I did some other little levels as well, but the hub worlds were my build on that. That's also a fun one if you haven't seen a little bit of trivia. Is in the summer one, the white castle.
Uh-huh.
there's scroll work on the castle walls, and if you look at it carefully, it actually says Brian,
Really?
Bryan, and that's my son's name. So I
I never
carved
knew
his
that.
name into the stone. And then at some point later on in the development of the game, Oliver Wade, who is the art director, or the animation director, came up to me and says, "Hey, my son's name is Brian with a Y." And I saw Brian on the wall, but I also have a daughter named Brenda. And I can't tell my son Brian about his name in the wall unless can you carve Brenda someplace? And so it says Brenda, I think, on the winner hub on the castle doors. It's not nearly as elaborate because I just did it really quick and didn't have time to mess with it. But it says Brenda carved in the doors or above the door. I think it's in the doors.
I wonder if the cutting room floor knows about that. I wonder if that's an article. There's actually a mod for Spyro 2 that attempts to make a brand new world called Spring Savannah to the
Uh-huh.
game. It's it. I mean, you can take a look if you want.
Yeah. What the one thing I was just this week or last week when I was up visiting my son. I can't remember what he called it, but there's a program that they run. He showed me Quake and Minecraft, where real time they do ray tracing. So it's the original models, original textures. Nothing's changed in the world. You flip on this ray trace, and everything has shadows, and they move with the sun. And the water now looks like water. It's absolutely incredible the difference. Um, just adding ray tracing, and it's like, man, forget Reignited. Just take the original Spyro games and running through this ray trace. I'd love to see the original Spyro.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, so I can't remember what he called whose program it is you ran it through. But even something as blocky
Yeah,
as Minecraft, it was incredible how much more depth you got in everything, because things were actually reflecting light and you had proper shadows being cast on everything. Um, and so yeah, I'd love to see it with Spyro.
that actually reminds me. Have you seen Spyro in Half-Life?
No.
Okay. Someone's making a mod where you can play the entirety of Half-Life as Spyro the Dragon. And I think the creator would like it a lot if you could maybe say that you think it's really neat, or
Oh
if you
yeah,
think so. Here's a video of it. It just got a new showcase a couple days ago. I don't know if you know anything about Half Life, but it's
haven't
got
played it, but it's that okay. I can already say it's cool, even just in the elevator.
I mean, there's even like things that Sparks can eat to regain health and all that.
Oh wow, that is cool.
Yeah. So if you could maybe drop the creator a line, he'd probably get it out faster.
That is fun. That is very cool. No, I hadn't even heard of that. Okay, I will definitely have to. So who is it? So is it the Magic
Yeah,
Nipples?
that's Magic Nipples. That's the name of the developer.
Okay, that is cool. That is cool. And see, it's that kind of thing that makes this whole thing seem real to me. Because you got to really enjoy something to put the amount of energy and time it takes to do something like that. You know, as much as it's a hobby and it's fun,
Yeah.
but it has to be a hobby you really enjoy to put that kind of time into. So, and even if you didn't, it's still really really cool. Oh,
Anyway, but yeah, I think we're at the end of our little interview. It's gone on for a few hours, but thank you so much. You've basically covered every single question any fan could possibly think to ask you.
I just wish I remembered more. I mean,
I mean, there's only so much you can give us. I mean, it's
yeah.
but I mean that's another thing. Do you still keep up with other members of STI or even Sonic Team?
Yeah, we don't talk game stuff much anymore. There's a handful of us from the early STI days. That some of the guys have actually ended up spent a lot of time together. In fact, well, unfortunately, two of us have already passed away.
Ooh.
Alan Ackerman passed away about 2 years ago, leukemia, I believe, and Rick McIrag died just a few months ago. So they're both young still.
Ouch.
And and Rick, both of them, Alan was an awesome artist. I was roommates with him for a while at STI. And then Rick his game design and his art was just gorgeous. And he was just always doing this kind of out of the box. The one game he did was that is just more than any game that STI didn't ship. And there's a bunch of games STI didn't ship. If I could see one packed up, finished, and shipped, it'd be one he did called Jester. Called Jester. A second here. Platformer game. This little Gumby type character made of clay that it was as much fun to get him killed as it was to finish the game, because he'd get smushed and it was like clay. He'd smush out or get pushed through stuff or burnt and melted and just all this crazy cool stuff with the character.
That sounds fun.
It was beautiful. The look of it was just this very fun look. And unfortunately, I don't know how long they spent on it, 2 years. And it just got dragged until finally it was dropped. It may have been dropped. Was it dropped at the same time they pulled everyone off, realizing we couldn't do 5 games or 6 games? I can't remember if they got dumped before that, or is that it? Blood finally got pulled. But that was his baby, so that was.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that you spoke to Yasuhara a few months ago.
Yeah, we just emailed. Yeah, because I was digging up and I was trying to find out more about this Treasure Tales game, and so we're friends on Facebook. And that's mostly, at least, how I've been staying in touch with people is Facebook or LinkedIn.
What about Mark Cerny? Like, this is off the record for the record. This won't be in the video. Do you know of a way to contact any of these people? Like, would you be willing to give that out?
No, if you find one to get a hold of Mark, please forward it to me if you can. I would love to talk. I keep after myself to track down a way, because I've got some emails for him, but I think they're old. And because he and I used to stay in touch, and he's the reason I ended up in Insomniac. Is he left Sega, and I knew I wanted to leave Sega. I was like, well, I want to work with Mark again, and so that's why I came down to Insomniac, because he was their producer. But whatever turned bad with me and Insomniac also somehow did something between Mark and I, because he just kind of distanced himself. Nothing dramatic. There was just some distance there. He was a little slower to return my calls, and then just kind of didn't return my calls. So yeah, I've been wanting to contact him, not for work, just to say, hey, how's life? I'd love to talk to him again. But yeah, so unfortunately, no, I don't have any way to contact Mark. I don't know.
Anybody else that might have a lead, other than Yasuhara?
Yeah, see, as I said, it's all just really casual stuff.
Yasuhara would be able to answer basically everything if we could just ask him.
If I should say, though, when I was asking him about the time period when he was doing Sonic 3, which is when I was doing this Treasure Tales game, and he says, I don't remember working on it. I may have. I don't remember anything.
I find that really difficult to believe, because he did a presentation on all of Sonic 2's time travel stuff.
Yeah, so and he obviously still has some of the art. So yeah, if he sat down, hopefully if he hasn't written it all down, he's writing it all down.
But of course, he's probably saving it for an actual documentary about Sonic 2 maybe someday. He probably
Yeah,
wouldn't be willing to talk to just any random fan who
yeah,
didn't give him a good reason.
he's high enough on the muckety muck ladder to be worthy of an actual documentary.
Because he was in Netflix recently talking about the creation of Sonic.
Well, because there was one of these behind the scenes video game shows that actually, and they had him, had Naka, they had Tom Kalinske, the CEO of Sega of America, um, and who's apparently has been very proactive in talking to people and sharing stuff and giving his time to people about his time at Sega. And I listened to him and he's talking about things like, I did not know that. He's talking about stuff that I was there. And like the whole, like you mentioned earlier at the very beginning of our conversation, of Sega's desire to make Sonic pleasing to the American market.
Right.
And so he was much more in on that and was able to discuss that. It was just kind of above me, and I don't remember, definitely don't remember being part of those conversations, even if I overheard or was told the discussions.
Well, anyway, I mean, the usually the way this works is that you go down the line of like, oh, I know a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. But yeah, that you are basically the only person left. I mean, I guess someone could message Yasuhara on Facebook if that's possible.
You could try him. Yeah, he's on Facebook. There's yeah, yeah. As I say, I don't. I'm sure Ted Price could. I mean, he probably still talks to Mark on a regular basis because I'm assuming they're still working on stuff together, but who knows? Although the two of them never really got along very well.
Wow.
They get along really well and then not get along. There's very distinct memory of him of Ted having Mark in a chokehold.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for your time. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. You're a really friendly guy. And it was an honor to talk to the creator of Spyro. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was I'd still love to play the game I pitched, but I wouldn't make a change to it as far as what got produced, because it is a awesome little game.
So. Well, this interview will be edited down and it'll go up on YouTube probably within the next month or so.
Okay.
I'll link it to you if it ever gets finished. When it gets finished, of course. I say if in regards to a lot of my video projects or not, but this is definitely going on there. Anyway, thank you, and I'll.
Okay. Well, it's been my pleasure, and there was something I was going to send you.
Something about
it wasn't the spinball map. You had that.
It was the sketch of. It was the stick figure thing.
Oh yeah. Let me write that down. Yeah, it's. I know I've got a photograph of that because it's in a fold. Yeah.
The circus level, I believe it was.
Circus level. So. Okay. I will do that as I'm sitting here, so I don't forget.
All right. Well, I'll see you later, Mark. Thank you.
Okay.
Mark. Craig. I was thinking of Mark Cerny.
Yeah, no, I don't even. I know he's been doing some top tier stuff on like PS5 and PS4.
Oh yeah, he works with Naughty Dog now.
Actual hardware kind of stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Be seeing you.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Bye. The stick figure thing, the circus level. The stick figure thing, the circus level. The stick figure thing, the circus level. Cool.